Last week, I gave you 5 steps to improve your sight reading instantly, but there was one piece of the sight reading puzzle that I left out because it is a bigger topic that I wanted to give more time to. If you watched part 1, we talked about scanning the music, looking ahead, keeping a steady pulse, and leaving things out. But the thing that we didn't talk about in that video is pattern recognition. So today I'm going to explain what that is and why it is key to improving your sight reading. I'm Rachel Ehring, and I have over 20 years of experience as a collaborative pianist, and I help pianists who want to become confident accompanists. There's one thing that great sight readers do that is sort of like a secret code. Rather than reading individual notes and rhythms in the music, they read patterns. It's just like reading a book. When you learn to read in kindergarten, you have to learn each individual letter, and then you learn how to put them together and sound out words. And eventually, you're reading the words and sentences as a whole rather than seeing individual letters. It's the same thing in music. The notes are put together to create recognizable patterns just like words in a book. If I see C, E, and G stacked up, my brain and fingers automatically know to play a C major chord without thinking about the 3 individual notes. If you've ever wondered why piano teachers make their students practice scales and chords and arpeggios, it's for this very reason. It gets those patterns so ingrained in our muscle memory that when we see them on the page, our fingers know what to do without even thinking about it. So how do we get better at recognizing patterns? Let me give you a few categories of patterns to start looking for in your sight reading, and then I'll show you how to actually practice this skill. The first patterns that you need to recognize are intervals. Rather than thinking that's a C and that's an E, train your brain to think that's a third. Intervals, the distance between 2 notes, are the building blocks of musical patterns. Get familiar with the shapes of seconds, thirds, fourths, and so on, both melodic, where they're played one after another, and harmonic, where they're played at the same time. I teach even my youngest students to read the notes going up and down, seeing the steps and skips, so that they are already thinking in patterns rather than individual notes from the very beginning. But even if your teacher didn't teach you that way, you can start now thinking about the intervals and melodic shapes. The more you can recognize these shapes at a glance, the faster your reading will become. The second pattern is the one I already mentioned, which is chords. Just like my earlier example of C, E, G forming a C major chord, your brain starts to see those clusters as one thing, not 3 different notes. Common chords like major, minor, dominant sevenths, inversions, those become visual and tactile shortcuts. Try looking at a score and asking, can I name this chord? Is it in root position or inverted? Is this a shape that I've seen or played before? When your fingers already know the shape, it frees up your brain to focus on everything else, like rhythm, dynamics, and expression. The next kind of pattern is rhythmic ones. This is a big one that often gets overlooked. Just like pitches, rhythms come in familiar groupings. Think about a dotted quarter followed by an eighth note, or 2/16 notes followed by an eighth note. If you recognize the rhythm at a glance, you don't need to count it out every single time. And here's a quick tip for you. When you sight read a new piece, try thinking or even copying any tricky rhythms that you see before you play. That one habit can help lock in rhythmic patterns much quicker. The next pattern is scales and arpeggios. If you see a string of eighth notes that climbs up in stepwise motion, chances are it's part of a scale. The more that you've practiced scales in every key, the more automatic that recognition becomes. And the same goes for arpeggios. They often show up in accompaniment patterns or even melody lines. So if you're reading a piece and your brain says, hey, that's a G major scale, your fingers will already know the fingering without much thought. And if you see a series of thirds, you know it's an arpeggio. So let's talk about practicing pattern recognition. You might be thinking, okay, Rachel, I get that I need to see patterns, but how do I train my brain and fingers to do that? Here are a few ways. Number 1, analyze before you play. Before you start sight reading, take 30 seconds to scan the music and name the patterns, intervals, chords, sequences, rhythms. You can even say them out loud if it helps. And this builds your awareness, first of all. Number 2, mark your music. As you are looking over the score, you can lightly circle or label recurring patterns. Over time, your brain will start to spot them automatically. Number 3 is to sight read easy music. Choose pieces below your playing level and focus just on seeing the patterns as you go instead of worrying about every single note. Number 4 is to practice what I call chunking. That means reading in groups of notes, not one at a time. Your brain loves patterns, and chunking helps you use that natural ability. So to review, pattern recognition is the secret sauce of great sight reading. When you can read intervals, chords, rhythms, and scales as whole units, you stop seeing a blur of black dots and you start seeing music that makes sense. The better you get at recognizing patterns, the faster and more confidently you will play. If this kind of focused skill building sounds helpful, check out my self-paced 7-day sight reading challenge. I created it to walk pianists step by step through habits just like this one. For just $7, you'll get daily exercises, practical tips, and a plan to improve your sight reading without the overwhelm. And if you want more tips, please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you back here next time.